In the last episode of a bygone era, the Earth lay shattered, a testament to humanity's unyielding capacity for destruction. The once blue skies were now a hazy gray, choked with the remnants of a civilization that had ravaged its own home. The few remaining cities stood as battered monuments to human ingenuity, their steel and concrete exteriors a hollow reminder of what had been lost. As I, Ambrose Wynter, stood at the edge of what was left of humanity's stronghold, I gazed out upon the desolate wasteland, a sense of determination burning within me. The weight of our collective failure bore down on my shoulders, but I refused to let it crush me. I had a vision, a beacon of hope in a world gone mad. My mind flashed back to the early days when whispers of my name were synonymous with innovation and progress. I had built empires, toppled giants, and dared the impossible. But this was different. This was about survival. A faint hum of engines broke the silence, and I turned to see a convoy of makeshift vehicles making their way toward us. The drivers, a ragtag group of survivors, were members of the charismatic, a feline-like species that had long been marginalized by human society. Their eyes seemed to gleam with a mix of curiosity and wariness as they took in our ramshackle encampment. I strode forward, a charismatic smile spreading across my face. These were the kinds of alliances we needed to forge if humanity was to have any chance of reclaiming its place among the stars. As I greeted the charismatic, a murmur of conversation spread through the crowd. They spoke of a world beyond our own, a galaxy teeming with life and possibility. The words sparked a fire within me, a flame that I knew could illuminate the darkness. "We have technology that can help you reclaim your lost territories," I said. The charismatic leader, a regal figure with piercing green eyes, regarded me skeptically. "What do you ask in return, Ambrose Wynter?" I offered a reassuring smile. "Only your trust and a chance to forge a new future together." The charismatic leader nodded, and with that simple gesture, an unlikely alliance was born. As the days passed, our unlikely coalition began to take shape. The charismatic were equipped with cutting-edge technology, and in return they shared their unique perspective on the galaxy. We were no longer alone, and for the first time in generations, humanity had a chance to rediscover its place in the universe. But with each step forward, old rivalries stirred and new challenges emerged. There were those who resented our sudden rise to prominence, and they began to conspire against us. I sensed a growing unease within our ranks, as if the very foundations of our newfound unity were being tested. "We are not just fighting for survival," I thought to myself. "We are fighting for a chance to redefine what it means to be human." The galaxy was a vast, unforgiving expanse, full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. As I looked out into the stars, I knew that our journey was only just beginning. The unknown beckoned, and I was ready to face it head-on. But for now, I had to focus on the task at hand, securing the resources and alliances necessary to ensure humanity's survival. The stakes were higher than ever before, and I couldn't afford to make a single misstep. As night began to fall on our makeshift camp, I gathered my closest advisors to discuss our next move. "We need to secure a crucial alliance with the Zeridian Empire," I said. "Their resources and technology would give us the edge we need to take on the Galactic Council." My advisors nodded in agreement, but I could sense their unease. "The Zeridian Empire is not to be trifled with," one of them warned. "Their emperor is a cunning and ruthless leader." I smiled grimly. "That is precisely why we need to form an alliance with them." As we pored over star charts and strategic maps, a sudden commotion erupted at the edge of our camp. A group of our charismatic allies had stumbled upon a cryptic message, one that hinted at a sinister plot to destabilize the fragile intergalactic balance. My heart quickened with a mix of excitement and trepidation. This could be the spark that ignites a galaxy-wide conflict, I thought. The message read, "Erebus Protocol engaged. Targets humanity's burgeoning alliances." A cold dread crept up my spine. We had to act fast, and I knew that our very survival depended on it. With a resolute determination, I rallied my allies, preparing for a daring rescue mission that would take us into the very heart of the unknown. The stars themselves seemed to be watching us, their silence a reminder of the infinite possibilities that lay before us. Little did I know, however, that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test my leadership, my cunning, and my very soul. The darkness that lurked in the shadows was about to be unleashed, and I stood ready to face it head-on as I mobilized our forces. A sense of urgency gripped me. We had to move swiftly to prevent the Erebus Protocol from unraveling the fragile alliances we had forged. I gathered my most trusted advisors, each with their unique expertise and strengths. There was Lyra, a brilliant strategist with unparalleled knowledge of the galaxy's intricate web of alliances and rivalries. Beside her stood Kale, a battle-hardened warrior with unwavering loyalty and unshakable resolve. And then there was Alara, an enigmatic telepath who had proven invaluable in deciphering the intentions of our foes. Together, we pored over the cryptic message, searching for any clue that might lead us to the source of the Erebus Protocol. "This can't be a coincidence," Lyra said, her eyes scanning the data streams. "The timing is too perfect. Someone must be manipulating events from behind the scenes." I nodded in agreement. "We need to identify the puppet masters behind the scheme. Kale, can you dig up any information on potential suspects?" Kale's face set in a determined expression. "I'll leave no stone unturned, Ambrose, but I'll need access to our allies' intelligence networks." I turned to Alara, her piercing gaze already fixed on mine. "What do you sense, Alara? Are there any whispers in the void that might guide us?" Alara's eyes fluttered closed, her fingers weaving intricate patterns in the air. After a moment she spoke, her voice low and mystical. "I sense fear, Ambrose. Fear of the unknown, fear of the darkness that lurks beyond the rim of our galaxy. And I sense a presence, one that watches us from the shadows." A shiver ran down my spine as I listened to her words. I knew that Alara's abilities were not to be underestimated, and if she sensed danger, I had to take it seriously. "Then let us proceed with caution," I said, my voice firm. "We'll need to be prepared for any eventuality. Lyra, can you plot a course that will take us to the heart of the Galactic Council's territory?" Lyra nodded, her fingers flying across the console. "I'll have the coordinates locked in within the hour, Ambrose." As we set our plan in motion, a sense of trepidation crept over me. I knew that we were about to embark on a perilous journey, one that would take us to the very limits of our endurance. But I was Ambrose Wynter, the master strategist, the charismatic leader who had forged unlikely alliances and defied the odds. I would not be intimidated by the unknown. I gazed out at the starry expanse, my heart pounding with anticipation. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to take on the challenge. With a deep breath, I issued the order to depart, and our convoy of makeshift ships blasted off into the unknown, bound for the heart of the Galactic Council's territory. Little did I know that our journey would lead us into the very heart of darkness itself, and that the true test of my leadership was only just beginning as we pierced the veil of hyperspace. Our ships shuddered and groaned, protesting the strain of navigating uncharted territories. Stars blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors, and the silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the steady hum of our engines. "We're approaching the Galactic Council's space," Lyra's voice whispered, her eyes fixed on the navigation charts. "Prepare for emergence." I nodded, my gut tightening with expectation. This was it, the moment of truth. Would we find the masterminds behind the Erebus Protocol, or would we be walking into a trap? The ships shuddered once more, and suddenly we burst into normal space. The view screen flickered to life, bathing us in an eerie crimson glow. "By the galaxies," Kale breathed, his eyes wide with awe. Before us lay the Galactic Council's stronghold, a labyrinthine fortress, its walls a twisted mass of black stone and dark energy. The air was thick with the stench of corruption, and the very fabric of space seemed to writhe in agony. "Alara, can you sense anything?" I asked, my voice low and urgent. Alara's gaze was distant, her eyes unfocused. "The presence I sensed earlier, it's stronger now. Whatever is behind the Erebus Protocol, it's connected to this place. I nodded, my mind racing. We had to move swiftly before our enemies realized we were onto them. Lyra, raise our shields and prepare for defensive maneuvers. Kale, assemble a team to escort me to the council chambers. We'll need to move quickly and quietly. As my team sprang into action, I felt a thrill of anticipation. This was at the moment I would confront the architects of the Erebus Protocol and put an end to their sinister plans once and for all. With a deep breath, I led the way, my footsteps echoing through the corridors of our ship. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to take on the challenge. We disembarked onto the council's platform, our boots clanging against the black stone. The air was heavy with tension, and the silence was oppressive. "Stay sharp," I whispered to Kale and Alara as we made our way toward the council chambers. We pushed through the doors, and a hush fell over the gathered dignitaries. The chamber was a cavernous, dimly lit space, the walls adorned with ancient artifacts that seemed to whisper secrets to the shadows. At the far end of the room, a figure emerged from the darkness, a towering, statuesque being with skin like polished onyx and eyes that burned with an otherworldly intensity. "Ambrose Wynter," the being spoke, its voice like a crack of thunder. "I have been expecting you. You are just in time to witness the birth of a new era, one in which humanity will take its rightful place among the galactic elite." I smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "I think you'll find, Counselor, that humanity has already taken its rightful place. And I'm not here to negotiate, I'm here to put a stop to your schemes once and for all." The counselor's gaze narrowed, its eyes flashing with anger. "You are bold, Ambrose Wynter, but you are also foolish. You see, we have anticipated your move and prepared a little surprise for you." As the counselor spoke, the shadows around us began to writhe and twist, taking on a life of their own. I felt a shiver run down my spine, as I realized that we were not alone in the chamber and that the true enemy was not what we had expected at all. "The game is afoot," I whispered to Kale and Alara as the darkness closed in around us. "Let's see who comes out on top." The counselor's words hung in the air, heavy with menace, as the shadows coalesced into twisted, humanoid forms. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, like embers from a dying star. I could feel the weight of their presence, like a cold breeze on a winter's night. "Alara, can you sense anything?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze was fixed on the creatures, her eyes unfocused. "They are not natural, Ambrose. They are constructs created from the very fabric of darkness itself." Kale's hand instinctively went to the hilt of his sword, his eyes locked on the counselor. "Looks like we've got a new player at the table," he whispered. I nodded, my mind racing. This changed everything. The Erebus Protocol, the Galactic Council's schemes, it was all just a smokescreen for something far more sinister. These creatures, these constructs, were the true enemy. The counselor's voice interrupted my thoughts, its tone dripping with malice. "Behold the Kha'Zix, the instrument of our will and the bringers of a new era." The Kha'Zix moved as one, their eyes fixed on us with an unblinking gaze. I could feel their power, like a palpable force crushing the air from my lungs. "Lyra, raise our shields," I whispered, my eyes never leaving the counselor. "We need to get out of here now." But it was too late. The Kha'Zix closed in, their twisted bodies blurring into a whirlwind of darkness. I felt Alara's hand grab mine, her grip like a vice. "Ambrose, I sense something," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear. "A presence beyond the Kha'Zix. Something ancient and powerful." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. This was at the moment of truth. Would we emerge victorious, or would we fall to the darkness? The Kha'Zix swept forward, their constructs dissolving into a sea of shadowy tendrils. I raised my hands, and a blast of energy erupted from my palms, casting the creatures back. But I knew it was only temporary. We needed to find the source of their power and cut it off at the root. "Kale, Alara, we need to get to the heart of this fortress," I shouted, my voice carrying across the chamber. "Find the source of the Kha'Zix power and destroy it." The two nodded, their faces set with determination. Together, we charged forward into the heart of the darkness. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to secure our future. As we fought our way deeper into the fortress, the shadows grew thicker, the air heavier with malevolent energy. I could feel the presence Alara had sensed, growing stronger with every step. We were getting close. Suddenly, the walls around us erupted into a blaze of light, and I stumbled back, blinded. The presence, the ancient and powerful entity, had finally revealed itself. And it was unlike anything I had ever seen before. The being stood before us, its form shifting like a living thing, as if it was woven from the very fabric of reality itself. Its presence was overwhelming, like a tidal wave crashing against the shores of my mind. Ambrose Wynter, it spoke, its voice like thunder, echoing through the chamber. You have meddled in the affairs of the galaxy for the last time. I stood tall, my eyes locked on the being, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the weight of its power like a crushing force bearing down on me. We mean no harm, I lied, trying to stall for time. We only seek to understand the secrets of the universe. The being laughed, its sound like the shattering of stars. You are but mere mortals, blind to the true nature of existence. You think you can comprehend the secrets of the cosmos. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This being was ancient beyond measure. It had witnessed the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations. I felt like an ant before a titan. "What do you want from us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The being's form shifted, its essence coalescing into a being of darkness and light. "I will give you a choice, Ambrose Wynter. You may join me, and together we will shape the destiny of the galaxy. Or you may refuse and suffer the consequences." I hesitated, weighing my options. To join this being would be to surrender humanity's sovereignty, to submit to its whims. But to refuse would be to invite destruction. I glanced at Kale and Alara, their eyes fixed on me, their faces set with determination. I knew what I had to do. "I refuse," I said, my voice firm. The being's laughter boomed through the chamber, shaking the foundations of the fortress. "Foolish mortal," it spat. "You will regret this decision." As it spoke, the shadows around us seemed to coalesce, taking form as twisted, nightmarish creatures. They moved forward, their eyes fixed on us, their presence like a cold, dark wind. "Well, take our chances," I said, drawing my sword. Kale and Alara stood shoulder to shoulder with me, their blades at the ready. Together, we charged forward into the heart of the abyss. The battle was fierce, the creatures relentless in their assault. But we fought back, our swords flashing in the dim light, our determination driving us forward. As we fought, the chamber around us began to collapse, the walls shuddering, the floor trembling. I knew we had to end this, and fast. "Alara, can you sense the source of their power?" I shouted above the din of battle. Her eyes locked on mine, her gaze intense. "I think I can, Ambrose. It's coming from the heart of the fortress." I nodded, my plan forming. "Kale, take point. Alara, cover our rear. We'll make a push for the heart of the fortress." The two nodded, their faces set with determination. Together, we launched a final, desperate assault. The outcome was far from certain, but one thing was clear: only one of us would emerge victorious. We carved a bloody path through the twisted creatures, our swords slicing through their dark, ethereal bodies. Kale led the charge, his sword flashing in the dim light, his combat prowess unmatched. Alara guarded our rear, her blade swift and deadly, her senses on high alert for any sign of betrayal. I fought alongside them, my sword a blur of motion, my mind focused on the ultimate goal, reaching the heart of the fortress. The chamber trembled around us, the walls cracking, the floor shuddering beneath our feet. I knew we were running out of time. The fortress itself seemed to be dying, its very fabric unraveling as we fought to reach its core. "We're close," Alara shouted, her voice piercing above the din of battle. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. We were almost there. One final push and we would reach the source of the creature's power. The air grew thick with tension as we approached the heart of the fortress. The creatures grew more aggressive, their attacks more frenzied. I could feel the power emanating from the core, a dark, pulsating energy that seemed to call to me. We burst into the central chamber, our swords at the ready. Before us lay a glowing crystal, its surface pulsating with an otherworldly power. The being of darkness and light stood before it, its form shifting, its essence swirling with energy. "You fools," it spat, its voice like thunder. "You think you can defeat me?" I raised my sword, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. This was the moment of truth. "Well, take our chances," I said, my voice firm. The battle was intense, the three of us fighting in perfect sync. Kale and Alara flanked me, their swords flashing in the dim light. I faced the being, my sword clashing with its dark, swirling energy. The chamber shook around us, the walls crumbling, the floor trembling. I knew we were running out of time. The fortress was collapsing, its very fabric unraveling as we fought. Suddenly, the being's form shifted, its essence coalescing into a being of pure light. I stumbled back, my eyes blinded by the intensity of the radiance. "No," Alara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It can't be." I blinked, my vision clearing. Before me stood a being of pure light, its essence radiating an intense, blinding power. "You should have joined me," it spoke, its voice like music. "Now you will suffer the consequences." The chamber began to collapse, the walls crumbling, the floor shattering beneath our feet. I knew we had to get out and fast. "Retreat!" I shouted, grabbing Kale and Alara by the arms. We turned to flee, but it was too late. The chamber dissolved around us, the darkness closing in like a living thing. As the world went dark, I realized that we had underestimated the power of the being. We had played into its hands, and now we would pay the price. But even as the darkness consumed us, I knew that I would not give up. I would find a way to escape, to rally my allies, and to strike back against the being's sinister plans. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I would not rest until I had secured our place in the galaxy I came to, my head throbbing, my body aching all over. I lay on a cold metal table, my vision blurry. Kale and Alara stood beside me, their faces etched with concern. "Ambrose," Kale whispered, his voice low. "Can you hear me?" I groaned, trying to sit up. Alara's hand pressed against my chest, holding me down. "Easy, Ambrose," she said. "You've been out for a while." I forced myself to focus, my mind foggy. We were in a dimly lit chamber, the walls lined with consoles and machinery. A faint hum of energy pulsed through the air. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice rough. "We're on a ship," Kale replied. "One of the being's vessels. We're not sure how we got here." I remembered the battle, the chamber collapsing and the darkness closing in. I had to get us out of here and fast. "Find a way to contact our allies," I ordered, my voice firm. "We need to get off this ship and regroup." Kale nodded, his eyes scanning the consoles. Alara helped me sit up, her hand steady on my shoulder. As I stood, my vision swam. The room spun around me and I stumbled. Alara caught me, her grip firm. "You're not well, Ambrose," she said. "We need to find medical help." I pushed her away, my determination burning brighter. "We don't have time for that. We need to escape, and we need to do it now." Kale's eyes locked onto mine, his expression grim. "I've found a way to contact our allies," he said, "but we need to be careful. The being's forces are closing in on us." I nodded, my mind racing. We had to move, and fast. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I would not rest until I had secured our place in the galaxy. "Let's get to work," I said, my voice firm. Kale and Alara exchanged a look, their faces set with determination. Together, we would find a way out of this ship, and we would take the fight to the being. As we worked, the room grew quieter, the machinery humming in the background. I knew we were running out of time, but I had faith in my allies and myself. We would escape, and we would triumph. The being had underestimated me, and it would soon learn the true extent of human determination. With a final burst of energy, we activated the communication console, sending a beacon signal to our allies. The response was immediate, a fleet of ships bursting into view on the console screens. "Our rescue team is on the way," Kale said, a smile spreading across his face. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. We had done it. We had escaped the being's vessel, and we would soon be reunited with our allies. But as we celebrated, the ship's alarm systems blared to life. the console screens flashing with warning messages. "What's happening?" Alara asked, her voice urgent. Kale's eyes locked onto the screens, his expression grim. "The being's forces are attacking our rescue team," he said. "We're running out of time." I knew what we had to do. We had to take the fight to the being, and we had to do it now. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I would not rest until I had secured our place in the galaxy. "Prepare for battle," I said, my voice firm. Kale and Alara exchanged a look, their faces set with determination. Together we would take the fight to the being, and we would emerge victorious. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I had faith in my allies and myself. We would triumph, and we would forge a new future for humanity. With a fierce cry, we charged into the fray, our swords flashing in the dim light, our hearts beating as one. We would not be defeated. We would not be deterred. We were humanity, and we would rise to the challenge. We fought our way through the ship, cutting down the being's forces with ease. Kale's blaster and Alara's sword sliced through the enemy ranks, clearing a path for us to reach the bridge. I led the charge, my determination driving me forward. As we reached the bridge, the being itself confronted us. Its massive form loomed over us, its eyes blazing with fury. "You fools," it spat. "You think you can defeat me?" I smiled, my confidence unwavering. "We've come too far to turn back now," I said. "We'll take you down, and we'll claim our place in the galaxy." The being laughed, a deafening sound that shook the ship. "You're no match for me," it said. "I'll crush you and your pitiful human empire." I charged forward, my sword flashing in the light. The being raised a hand, and a blast of energy sent me flying across the room. I crashed to the ground, dazed and disoriented. Kale and Alara rallied to my side, their weapons blazing as they fought to hold off the being's forces. I struggled to my feet, my head spinning. The being loomed over me, its eyes burning with hatred. "You're finished," it spat. "You'll never leave this ship alive." I smiled, my determination burning brighter. "You're wrong," I said. "I always have a plan." With a burst of adrenaline, I launched myself at the being, my sword flashing in the light. The being laughed, its massive form towering over me, but I was not deterred. I fought with every ounce of strength I had, my sword slicing through the being's defenses. Kale and Alara joined the fray, their weapons blazing as they fought to take down the being. The battle was intense, the three of us trading blows with the being. But I knew we had to end this fight, and fast. The being's forces were closing in, and our rescue team was under attack. With a final burst of energy, I struck the being's core, my sword slicing through its defenses. The being let out a deafening roar as it stumbled backwards, its massive form crashing to the ground. We stood victorious, our chests heaving with exhaustion. The ship's alarm systems fell silent, the console screens flashing with a new message. "Our rescue team is on the way," Kale said, a smile spreading across his face. I nodded, my heart still racing from the battle. We had done it. We had defeated the being, and we had secured our place in the galaxy. As we walked away from the being's lifeless form, I knew that our victory would come at a cost. The being's forces would retaliate, and we would have to be ready. But for now, we celebrated our triumph. We had forged a new future for humanity, and we would continue to fight for our place in the galaxy. The rescue team arrived, pouring onto the ship to escort us to safety. I smiled, my heart full of pride. We had done it. We had secured our place in the galaxy, and we would continue to thrive. As we flew away from the battle-scarred ship, I gazed out at the stars, my heart full of wonder. The galaxy was full of mysteries, full of dangers, but I knew that we would face them head-on, united and strong. The battle ahead would be fierce, but I had faith in my allies and myself. We would triumph, and we would forge a new future for humanity. And as I looked out at the stars, I knew that our journey was far from over. We would face new challenges, new dangers, but we would face them together as one. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I would not rest until I had secured our place in the galaxy. As we flew back to our stronghold, the weight of our victory began to sink in. The being's defeat would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy, and its allies would not take kindly to our triumph. I called a meeting with my top advisors, gathering them around the holographic display in the war room. "We need to prepare for the fallout," I said, my eyes scanning the room. "The being's allies will retaliate and we need to be ready." Kale nodded, his brow furrowed in concern. "We should reinforce our defenses, prepare for a possible siege." Elara spoke up, her voice laced with determination. "We should also reach out to our allies, fortify our relationships, and prepare for a united front." I nodded, my mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. "Agreed. Let's get to work, people. We don't have much time." The meeting dispersed and my team set to work, poring over data and coordinating with our allies. I watched them, my heart swelling with pride. We were a team, united and strong. As the day wore on, the news of our victory spread throughout the galaxy. Alien species, once wary of humanity, began to reach out, offering congratulations and words of support. I stood on the balcony of my stronghold, gazing out at the stars. The galaxy was changing and we were at the forefront of that change. But as I basked in the glow of our triumph, a faint signal caught my attention. A distress call, encrypted and faint, echoed through the comms system. I frowned, my heart skipping a beat. Who could be sending out a distress call and why? I called up the signal, my eyes scanning the data. The message was garbled, but one phrase stood out. "Ambrose Wynter, please respond. The Shadow Syndicate has been compromised." My heart raced as I recognized the caller. It was an old ally, a member of the Shadow Syndicate, a secretive organization that operated in the shadows of the galaxy. I knew that the Syndicate had been watching me, monitoring my rise to power. And now it seemed they needed my help. I hesitated, weighing my options. Should I respond or ignore the call? But something about the message resonated with me. I knew that the Syndicate held secrets that could change the course of human history. And with that thought, I made my decision. I would respond and I would uncover the truth behind the Syndicate's distress call. I turned to my team, my eyes flashing with determination. "We have a new mission, people. Let's get to work." I stepped into the comms room, surrounded by my team, and initiated a secure channel to respond to the distress call. The holographic display flickered to life, casting a pale blue glow over the room. "Ambrose Wynter here," I said, my voice firm and reassuring. "What's the situation, Arcturus?" The voice on the other end was laced with urgency. "Ambrose, it's good to hear from you. We've been compromised from within. One of our own has betrayed us and we need your help to contain the damage." I sensed a tremor of unease from my team, but I kept my focus on the conversation. "What kind of damage are we talking about, Arcturus?" "Classified information has been stolen, Ambrose. Secrets that could give our enemies the upper hand. We need your team to help us track down the traitor and retrieve the stolen data." I glanced at my team, seeing the determination in their eyes. We had faced impossible odds before and we would do it again. Assembling a team. "Arcturus, well, be en route to your coordinates within the hour. Be prepared to brief us on the situation when we arrive." The line went dead and I turned to my team. "Kale, assemble a team of our best operatives. Elara, get me everything you can on the Shadow Syndicate's layout and security. We move out in 60 minutes. As they scrambled to prepare, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a simple traitor. The Syndicate was known for its ruthless efficiency, and if they had been compromised, it meant that something much deeper was at play. 45 minutes later, we boarded the shuttle, armed and armored for the mission ahead. The Shadow Syndicate's headquarters loomed before us, a towering fortress hidden within a remote asteroid field. As we landed, Arcturus awaited us, his usually calm demeanor replaced by a look of desperation. "Ambrose, thank you for coming. We have reason to believe the traitor is still within the complex. We need to move quickly." I nodded, my mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. "Let's get to work, people. We have secrets to uncover and traitors to catch." We moved swiftly, sweeping through the labyrinthine corridors of the Syndicate's headquarters, searching for any sign of the traitor. The air was thick with tension, and I knew that one misstep could mean disaster. Suddenly, Alara's voice whispered in my earpiece. "Ambrose, I've hacked into the security feed. I'm seeing signs of a forced lockdown in Sector 3. It looks like our trader is trying to escape. I motioned to Kale and we moved swiftly towards the compromised sector. The lockdown had triggered a maze of deadly traps, but we navigated them with precision, our training and teamwork proving to be the difference between life and death. As we burst into the final chamber, I was met with a sight that made my blood run cold. A figure, shrouded in shadows, stood before a console, transmitting classified data to an unknown recipient. The figure turned and I saw the face of my former ally, now twisted with malice. "You're too late, Ambrose," they sneered. "The damage is done. Humanity will never be the same." A cold fury gripped my heart as I realized the true extent of the betrayal. This was no ordinary traitor. This was someone who had been playing me from the very beginning. I took a step forward, my eyes locked on the traitor. "You're going to tell me everything," I growled. "And then you're going to pay for your betrayal. The game is far from over," I spat, my anger seething beneath the surface. The traitor, still shrouded in shadows, let out a mocking laugh. "You're so predictable, Ambrose. You think you can stop this. You think you can undo what's already been done." My team moved into position, surrounding the traitor, their weapons at the ready. I raised a hand, halting their advance. "Not yet. I want to know what's going on. I want to know who's behind this." The traitor took a step forward, their features slowly emerging from the darkness. "You were played, Ambrose, from the very beginning. You were played like a pawn in a much larger game." I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the extent of the deception. "Who?" I demanded, my voice low and deadly. The traitor smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "The ones who have been pulling the strings from behind the scenes. The ones who have been guiding humanity's rise to power." My mind raced as I tried to process the information. "The Galactic Council," I ventured, but the traitor's smile grew wider. "Much higher than that, Ambrose. The ones who have been shaping the course of history for centuries. The ones who have been waiting for humanity to reach this point." I felt a sickening sense of unease as I realized the true extent of the conspiracy. "What do you mean?" I forced myself to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The traitor took another step forward, their eyes glinting with malice. "Humanity's rise to power was never about survival or progress. It was about fulfilling an ancient prophecy. A prophecy that would bring about a new era of greatness, but at a terrible cost." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The room seemed to spin around me as I struggled to comprehend the implications. "What cost?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. The traitor's smile grew wider, their eyes glinting with a mad fervor. "The cost of humanity's very soul." In that moment, I knew that everything I thought I knew was a lie. Everything I had fought for, everything I had sacrificed, was all just a part of a much larger, more sinister plan. I took a step forward, my heart heavy with determination. "You're going to tell me everything," I growled, "and then you're going to pay for your betrayal." But as I looked into the traitor's eyes, I saw something that gave me pause, a glimmer of fear, a hint of uncertainty. They were not the mastermind behind this conspiracy. They were just a pawn like me. And in that moment, I knew that the true enemy was still out there, waiting in the shadows, waiting to strike. The air was thick with tension as I gazed into the traitor's eyes, searching for answers. But the fear I saw there only made me more determined to uncover the truth. "Start talking," I ordered, my voice firm but controlled. The traitor's hesitation was palpable, but I could sense the fear of the unknown driving them to confess. I was approached by a figure with unparalleled power and influence," they stammered. "They promised me wealth, power, and protection if I did their bidding. I was just a pawn in a much larger game, Ambrose. I swear it." I watched as the traitor's words spilled out, a torrent of fear and desperation. But I knew I had to push further, had to know more. "Who was this figure?" I demanded, my eyes narrowing. The traitor's gaze faltered, and for a moment I thought I saw a glimmer of something else, something almost human. "I don't know," they admitted, their voice barely above a whisper. "I was given a code name, a symbol, the Phoenix. That's all I know. The Phoenix." The name sent a shiver down my spine. I knew that symbol, had seen it etched into ancient artifacts, whispered in hushed tones by the oldest of the alien species. The phoenix is a myth, I said aloud, trying to process the implications. The trader's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a desperation that bordered on madness. Is it, they asked, their voice a barely audible whisper, or is it the puppet master pulling the strings of humanity's destiny? I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine as I realized the true extent of the conspiracy. The Galactic Council, the marginalized species, even I myself, we were all just pawns in a much larger game, orchestrated by an unknown entity with unimaginable power and influence. The room was silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of my team, their presence a reminder that I was not alone in this fight. But I knew I had to be careful, had to tread carefully, for I was now dancing on the edges of a treacherous web of intrigue. Take them away, I said finally, my voice firm. I need to think, to strategize. We're not done yet, not by a long shot. As my team dragged the traitor away, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden, waiting to be unearthed. But I knew one thing: I would stop at nothing to uncover the truth, to bring the true enemy to justice. The game was far from over, and I was ready to play.